Here I am, back for the second half of Book 1 of Paradise Lost. And Street commands that at the warlike sound of trumpets loud and clarions be upreared, his mighty standard that proud honor claimed, Azazel, as his right, a cherub tall, who forthwith from the glittering staff unfurled the imperial ensign, which full high advanced, shone like a meteor streaming to the wind, with gems and golden luster rich emblazed, seraphic arms and trophies, all the while sonorous metal blowing martial sounds, at which the universal host upsent a shout that tore hell's concave, and beyond frighted the reign of chaos and old night. All in a moment, through the gleam were seen 10,000 banners rise into the air, with orient colors waving. With them rose a forest huge of spears, and thronging helms appeared, and varied shields and thick array of depth immeasurable. Anon they move in perfect phalanx to the Dorian mood of flutes and soft recorders, such as raised to height of noblest temper, heroes old arming to battle, and instead of rage, deliberate valor breathed, firm and unmoved, with dread of death to flight or foul retreat, not wanting power to mitigate and swage with solemn touches troubled thoughts, and chase anguish and doubt and fear and sorrow and pain from mortal or immortal minds. Thus they, breathing united force with fixed thought, moved in on silence to soft pipes that charmed the painful steps or the burnt foil. And now advanced in view they stand, a horrid front of dreadful length and dazzling arms, in guise of warriors, bold with ordered spear and shield, awaiting what command their mighty chief had to impose. He, through the armed files, darts his experienced eye, and soon traverse the whole battalion views, their order due, their visages and stature as of gods, their number last he sums. And now his heart distends with pride, and hardening in his strength glories, for never since created men met such embodied force as named with these could merit more than that small infantry warred on by cranes, though all the giant brood of Phalegra with the heroic race were joined, that fought at Thebes and Ilium, on each side mixed with auxiliar gods. And what resounds in fable or romance of Uther's son, begirt with British and Armoric knights, and all who since baptized or infidel jousted in Aspremont or Montalban, Damasco or Morocco or Trebizond, or whom Bizerta sent from Afric shore when Charlemagne with all his peerage fell by Fontarabia. Thus far these beyond compare of mortal prowess, yet observe their dread commander. He above the rest, in shape and gesture proudly eminent, stood like a tower. His form had not yet lost all her original brightness, nor appeared less than archangel ruined. The excels of glory obscured, as when the sun new risen looks through the horizon, horizontal misty air, shorn of his beams, or from behind the moon in dim eclipse, disastrous twilight sheds on half the nations, and with fear of change perplexes monarchs. Darkened foe, yet shone above them all the archangel, but his face deep scars of thunder had entrenched, and care sat upon his faded cheek, and under brows of dauntless courage and considerate pride, waiting revenge, cruel his eye, but cast signs of remorse in passion to behold the fellows of his crime, the followers, rather, far other once beheld in bliss, condemned forever now to have their lot in pain, millions of spirits for his fault and a merit of heaven, and from eternal splendors flung for his revolt. Yet faithful, how they stood, their glory withered, as when heaven's fire hath feared the forest oaks or mountain pines. With singed top their stately growth, though bare, stands on the blasted heath. He now prepared to speak, whereat their doubled ranks they bend from wing to wing, and half enclose him round with all his peers. Attention held them mute. Thrice he essayed, and thrice, in spite of scorn, tears, such as angels weep, burst forth at last. Words interwove with sighs found out their way. O myriads of immortal spirits! O powers matchless, but with the Almighty! And that strife was not inglorious, though the event was dire, as this place testifies, and this dire change hateful to utter. But what power of mind, foreseeing or presaging from the depth of knowledge past or present, could have feared how such united sorrow of gods, how such as flood like these could ever know repulse? For who can yet believe, though after loss, that all these puissant legions, whose exile hath emptied heaven, shall fail to reascend, self-raised, and repossessed their native feet? Repossess their native feet. For me, be witness all the host of heaven, if counsels different or danger shunned by me have lost our hopes. But he who reigns monarch in heaven, till then as one secure sat on his throne, upheld by old repute, consent or costume, and his regal state put forth at full, but still his strength concealed, which tempted our attempt, which wrought our fall. Henceforth his might we know, and know our own, so as not either to provoke or dread new war provoked. Our better part remains to work in close design, by fraud or guile what force effected not, that he no less at length from us may find, who overcomes by force hath overcome but half his foe. Space may produce new worlds, whereof so rife there went a fame in heaven that he ere long intended to create, and therein plant a generation whom his choice regard should favor equal to the sons of heaven. Thither, if but to pry, shall be perhaps our first eruption. Thither or elsewhere, for this infernal pit shall never hold celestial spirits in bondage, nor the abyss long under darkness cover. But these thoughts full counsel must mature. Peace is despaired. Who can think submission? War, then, war open or understood, must be resolved. He spake, and to confirm his words, out flew millions of flaming swords, drawn from the thighs of mighty cherubim. The sudden blaze, far round the illumined hell, highly they raged against the highest, and fierce with grasped arms clashed on their founding shields the din of war, hurling defiance toward the vault of heaven. There stood a hill not far, whose griefly top belched fire and rowling smoke. The rest entire shone with a glossy scurf, undoubted sign that in his womb was hid metallic ore, the work of sulphur. Thither, winged with speed, a numerous brigade hastened, as when bands of pioneers with spade and pickaxe armed forerun the royal camp. to trench a field, or craft a rampart. Mammon led them on, Mammon, that least directed spirit that fell from heaven, for even in heaven his looks and thoughts were always downward bent, admiring more the riches of heaven's pavement, trod in gold, than aught divine or holy else enjoyed. In vision beatific, by him first men also, and by his suggestion taught, ransacked the center, and with impious hands rifled the bowels of their mother earth for treasures better hid. Soon had his crew opened into the hill a spacious wound, and digged out ribs of gold. Let none admire that riches grow in hell. That soil may best deserve the precious bane. And here let those who boast immortal things, and wondering tell of Babel, and the works of Memphian kings, learn how the greatest monuments of fame and strength and art are easily outdone by spirits reprobate, and in an hour what in an age they with incessant toil and hands innumerable scarce perform. Nigh on the plain in many cells prepared, that underneath had veins of liquid fire sluiced from the lake, a second multitude of wondrous art founded in the massy ore, severing each kind and scummed the bullion dross. A third as soon as foreign within the ground, a various mold, and from the boiling cells a strange conveyance filled each hollow nook, as in an organ, from one blast of wind to many a row of pipes, the found board breathes. Anon out of the earth a fabric huge rose like an exaltation, with the sound of dulcet symphonies and voices sweet, built like a temple, where pilasters round were set, and Doric pillars overlaid with golden architrave, nor did there want cornice or frieze with bossy sculptures graven. The roof was fretted gold. Not Babylon, not great El Cairo, such magnificence equaled in all their glories. To enshrine Balis or Serapis their gods, or seat their kings, when Egypt with Assyria strove in wealth and luxury. The ascending pile stood fixed her stately height, and straight the doors opening their brazen folds discovered wide within her ample spaces, o'er the smooth and level pavement from the arched roof pedant by subtle magic many a row of starry lamps and blazing cressets, fed with naphtha and asphaltus, yielded light as from a sky. The hasty multitude admiring entered, and the work some praised and some the architect. His hand was known in heaven by many a towered structure high, where sceptred angels held their residence, and fat as princes whom the supreme king exalted to such power, and gave to rule, each in his hierarchy, the orders bright. Nor was his name unheard or unadorned in ancient Greece, and in Ausonian land men called him Mulciber, and how he fell from heaven, they fabled, thrown by angry Jove, sheer o'er the crystal battlements. From morn to noon he fell, from noon to dewy eve, a summer's day, and with the setting sun dropped from the zenith like a falling star. On Lemnos, the Aegean isle, thus they relate, erring, for he with this rebellious rout fell long before, nor aught availed him now to have built in heaven's high towers. Nor did he, by all his ingenious, was headlong sent with his adulterous crew industrious crew to build in hell. Meanwhile, the winged heralds, by command of sovereign power, with awful ceremony and trumpets, found throughout the host a solemn council forthwith to be held at Pandemonium, the high capital of Satan and his peers. Their summons called from every and band squared regiment, by place or choice the worthiest. They anon, with hundreds and with thousands trooping came, attended all. Access was thronged, the gates and porches wide, but chief the spacious hall, though like a covered field where champions wont ride and armed, and at the Sultan's chair defied the best of Panem chivalry to mortal combat or career with lance. Thick swarmed both on the ground and in the air, brushed with the hiss of rustling wings, as bees in springtime when the sun with Taurus rides, pour forth a populous youth about the hive in clusters. They among fresh dews and flowers fly to and fro, or on the smoothed plank, the suburb of their straw-built citadel, new rubbed with balm, expatiate and confer their state affairs. So thick the airy crowd swarmed and were straitened, till the signal given, behold, a wonder, that now who seemed in bigness to surpass earth's giant sons, now less them smallest dwarves, in narrow room throng numberless, like that Pygmean race beyond the Indian mount, or fairy elves whose midnight revels by a forest side, or fountain some belated peasant fees or dreams belated peasant sees, or dreams he sees, while overhead the moon sits arbitress, and nearer to the earth wheels her pale course. They on their mirth and dance intent, with jocund music charm his ear. At once with joy and fear his heart rebounds, thus incorporeal spirits to smallest forms reduced their shapes immense, and were at large, though without number still, amidst the hall of that infernal court. But far within, and in their own dimensions, like themselves, that great seraphic lords and cherubim in close recess and secret conclave sat 1,000 demigods on golden feats, frequent and full. After short silence, then, and summons read, the great consult began. End of the first book.